Hello everyone. In this video, we shall discuss about the maximum and minimum principle for harmonic functions. So before to that, we shall recall some of the definitions and theory needed for proving the maximum and minimum principle for harmonic function. So first one, for any subset E of X, where X is a topological space, we define the interior of E. The interior of E, denoted by these two symbols, is defined as the union of all open sets contained in E. So, for any subset E of a topological space X, we define the interior of E to be the union of all open sets contained in E. So note that the interior of E is the biggest open set contained in E because, so according to the definition, what is interior of E? It is the union of all open sets contained in E. So we'll take the union of all those open sets which are contained in E. So that union will give you the interior of E. So you know that union of open sets is open. So this definition implies E naught is open, being union of open sets, and as each U is contained in E, the union itself will be contained in E. So what it means, E naught is first of all a open set contained in E. And now, once again, by the same definition, union of all open sets and U is contained in E. As interior of E is the union of all open sets contained in E. So it contains each of the set involved in the union. So union of the sets contain each of the set involved in the union. So this union contains U, where U is any open set contained in E. So what it implies, U is contained in the interior of E, where U is what? U is any open set contained in E. So any open set contained in E is contained in E naught. So this relation shows that E naught is first of all an open set contained in E, and if there is any other set with the same property, it will be contained in E naught. So it means that it is the biggest set with this property. So that is open and contained in E. So E naught is the biggest open set contained in E, because if there is any other open set contained in E, that is already contained in E naught. So it is the biggest open set contained in E, as it contains all other open sets in E. So this is the definition of interior of E, and interior of E is the biggest open set contained in E. Next, we define the boundary of E. So for any subset E of the topological space X, boundary of E denoted by this symbol is defined as closure of E intersection E complement closure. So E closure intersection E complement closure. So where, recall that, so closure of E is defined to be intersection of all closed set containing E, containing E. So closure of any set E is the intersection of all closed sets containing E, containing E. So we define boundary of E to be closure of E intersection E complement closure. So that is, so if X belongs to boundary of E, if X belongs to the set boundary of E, then we'll say X is a boundary point of E. So this is the definition of boundary of a set. The points of this set are called the boundary points of E. So when any point can belong to this set, so we can say X belongs to the boundary of E if X belongs to the intersection E closure intersection E complement closure. So if X belongs to this intersection, then X belongs to the boundary of E. So when X belongs to this intersection, so X belongs to this intersection provided provided X belongs to E closure and X belongs to E complement closure. So when X belongs to E closure, so recall that X belongs to E closure if and only if every neighborhood of X intersects E. And when E can belongs to E complement closure if and only if every neighborhood of X intersects E complement. So here we are seeing that when X be a boundary point of E. So as point X is said to be a boundary point of E if X belongs to this set. But what is this set? It is E closure intersection E complement closure. So X can belongs to this intersection if it is in both the sets. So X belongs to E closure if and only if every neighborhood of X should intersect E, and X belongs to E complement closure if and only if every neighborhood of X intersects E closure, E complement. So that means, so X belongs to both the sets if every neighborhood of X intersects E and E complement. So whenever it is in both the sets, it will be the intersection so that it will be in the boundary of E, hence it will be a boundary point. So therefore, a point X is said to be a boundary point of E if its every neighborhood intersects both E and E complement. So this is the another form or another definition for boundary point. A point is said to be boundary point of E if its every neighborhood intersects both E and E complement. So next, so once again, E is any subset of a topological space X. E is connected if and only if the only subsets of E which are both open and closed are empty set and E. So that is, this statement contains two parts. So if I say E is connected, it implies that the only subsets of E which are both open and closed are empty set and E. So you know that, so empty set is obviously both open and closed in any topological space. So E is connected implies empty set and E are the only subsets of E which are both open and closed. And conversely, if empty set and E are the only sets which are both open and closed, then it will imply that E is connected. So it is an equivalent condition for a set to be connected, or to check whether a given set is connected or not, we can use this condition. So the only subsets of E which are both open and closed are empty set and the whole set E. Next, one of the results regarding integral of a real valued function. If f is non-negative if f is non-negative continuous function on the closed interval a comma b, and if the integral f from a to b is 0, then f is identically equal to 0 on closed interval a comma b. So that is, if at all f is non-negative, it means f of x is greater than or equal to 0 for all x varying over closed interval a comma b. So if f of x values are greater than or equal to 0 for all domain points, and if at all the integral of f from a to b is 0, then the integrand f has to reduce to 0 on the whole closed interval a comma b. Next point, suppose f of z is a real valued continuous function on a compact set K, then f attains maximum and minimum on K. So given f is a real valued continuous function defined on a compact set K. So f is a real valued function. It takes real values and it is defined on some compact set K. So any real valued function defined on a compact set attains maximum and minimum. So a function attains maximum and minimum means so this is the domain, this is the codomain. So it attains maximum means for some point P in the domain, so f of P will be in the codomain. So, and f of P will be actually the maximum of all images, and it attains minimum means for some domain point Q. So f of Q will be in the range and it will be the minimum of all function values. So we say that a function attains maximum and minimum if all the images or the range set has maximum and minimum. So what is the range set? So if this is the function f from k to r, this is the function. So what is the range? The range is denoted by f of k. So it is set of all images of points of k. So we say f attains maximum and minimum if the range has maximum and minimum. So this set has maximum means what? Maximum is nothing but the upper bound in the set. It is nothing but the biggest number in this set. So if there is a biggest of all images, then it is called the maximum. And if there is any smallest among all the images, it is called the minimum. So, and this is true. And this happens whenever f is a real valued function defined on a compact set. So if f is a real valued function of a defined on a compact set k, then f attains maximum and minimum. So f attains maximum and minimum means the range set, that is the set of all images of images, has maximum and minimum. So that means there exists 2 points in the domain P and Q such that f of P is the maximum of all images and f of Q is the minimum of all images. That means these images in the range set should have some biggest and smallest. That biggest and smallest are nothing but called maximum and minimum. Right. Next, let f from x to y be a map where x and y are topological spaces. That is, f is a function of topological spaces x and y. Then f is continuous if and only if for every open set V in Y, f inverse of V is open in X. And similarly, we have another statement here. For every closed set V in Y, f inverse of V is closed in X. That is, we can replace the condition openness by closedness also. So basically, f is a continuous function. So f is just a function of topological spaces. So f is said to be continuous if and only if. So it is if and only if condition. So there are two implications. So f is continuous implies that condition, and that condition will imply f is continuous. So f is continuous if and only if for every open set V in Y. So if we consider any open set V in Y, its inverse image, that is f inverse of V, should be open in X. Similarly, if V is a closed set in Y, then its inverse image f inverse of V has to be closed in X. So if at all f is a continuous function, so inverse image of open set is again open, inverse image of a closed set is again closed. And conversely, this condition also implies f is continuity. That is, if f is a function of topological spaces x and y such that inverse image of open set is open and inverse image of closed set is closed, implies that f has to be continuous. So just remember this result. A function f is continuous if and only if for every open set in the codomain, its inverse image has to be open in the domain. Similarly, for every closed set in the codomain, its inverse image has to be closed in the domain. Next, let X be a topological space and E be a subset of X. Let X be a point in the closure of E. Then there exists a sequence xn of points of E such that xn converges to X. So if X is a topological space and if E is any subset of X, X is any point of E closure, then there is a sequence Xn in E. That is, there is a sequence of points in E such that Xn converges to X. So for every point in the closure of E, there is a sequence in E converging to that point. So this statement is called the sequence lemma. We call this as the sequence lemma. So the converse of this sequence lemma holds only if X is a topological space. So note that all metric spaces are topological spaces, but a topological space need not be metric spaces. Actually, topological spaces are generalization of metric spaces. So if in particular, if X is a metric space, the converse of this sequence lemma holds. So what is the converse? So first, just concentrate on the direct part. So what this hypothesis and or what this statement says, so whenever X belongs to E closure, then there is a sequence Xn converging to X. So the converse of this will be if there is a sequence Xn of points of E converging to X, then X belongs to closure of E. So this becomes the converse of the sequence lemma. And this statement, the converse holds only if the X is metric space. So just we have framed the converse part. Suppose X is a metric space and E is a subset of X. If Xn is a sequence of points of E such that Xn converges to X, then X will be a point of closure of E. So this is nothing but the converse of the sequence lemma. Converse of the sequence lemma. And this converse holds only in the metric space, but the direct part holds in general topological space. So if it holds in the topological space, it will obviously hold in the metric space also. That means the direct and the converse both hold in a metric space. That means we can have an equivalence between these two statements if and only if X is a metric space. So these are the points which you have to note before going to the maximum and minimum principle for harmonic functions. Now we shall move on to the theorem, which is the maximum and the minimum principle for harmonic function. So this theorem actually gives the principle for harmonic function to attain maximum and minimum. So when a harmonic function will attain maximum and minimum. So actually this theorem has two parts. So in the first part, a non-constant harmonic function in a region omega can have neither maximum nor minimum on omega. So the first part says that, so if you have a non-constant harmonic function, non-constant harmonic function means a harmonic function which is other than the constant function. So we all know that constant functions are also harmonic function. So if you reject all those constant functions, so all the remaining non-constant harmonic functions can never have maximum or minimum on a region. So if you have a non-constant harmonic function on some region omega, then it cannot have maximum or minimum on omega. So this constitutes the first part. So second part is, if U is a real valued continuous function on a closed and bounded subset of E, and if U is harmonic in the interior of E, then U attains maximum and minimum on the boundary of E. So this is the second part. Second part says that, so U is just a real valued continuous function on the closed and bounded set E. So it is continuous function on this closed and bounded set E, and it is harmonic in the interior of E. It is harmonic in the interior of E. Then it attains maximum and minimum on the boundary of E. It attains maximum and minimum on the boundary of E means that, so you will have the maximum and you will have the minimum for some boundary points. for some point in the boundary of E, U has the maximum and U has the minimum. U has the maximum means, so there is a value for all the, which is maximum for all the images, and there is a value of U which is the minimum for all the images, like this. So first we shall prove the first part, then we shall move on to the second. So first part, what you have to prove? You have to prove a non-constant harmonic function can never have maximum or minimum. So start with a non-constant harmonic function u in a region omega. So to prove that it cannot have maximum, so we shall assume the contradiction. Suppose u attains maximum on omega. So u attains maximum on omega means what? So u is a harmonic function, so it is defined on omega, and all obviously u is a real valued function. So u attains maximum on omega means that, so there is a point in the domain, so at which u value is the maximum, that is u of z naught is greater than or equal to all rest of the values. So then there exists a point z naught in the domain omega such that u of z naught is greater than or equal to u of z for all z varying over the omega. Now consider a set A. So we have started with the contradiction, assuming that u attains maximum. So we have to end up with the contradiction. So for that, consider a set A to be the set of all points in omega such that u of z is equal to u of z naught, where u of z naught is the maximum value of u. So clearly A is non-empty because z naught is a point in A. So z naught is an obvious point in A because z naught is a point of omega and u of z naught is equal to u of z naught, which is trivial. So A is non-empty by the trivial element z naught, and as it contains only the elements of omega, clearly A is a subset of omega. So A is a non-empty subset of omega. Now we shall prove it is both open and closed. So if I prove A is both open and closed, then it will be a non-empty subset of the connected set omega, which is both open and closed. As omega is connected, the only subsets of omega which are both open and closed are empty set and the whole set. So if I am successful in proving A is both open and closed, so A has to be either empty set or the whole set. As A is non-empty, A has to be the whole set. That means all the elements in omega are the elements of A. That means for all points in omega, u of z will be equal to the fixed value u of z naught. That means u will be a constant function, which will be a contradiction. So this is the idea. So now we shall show that A is both open and closed. So first of all, A is the set of all points in omega such that u of z is equal to u of z naught, which is a fixed value. If I take it as alpha, then it is set of all those points in omega such that u of z is equal to alpha. All these values are equal to alpha, or in other words, I can write u of z belongs to the singleton set alpha. So what I am collecting here, I am collecting all those domain points whose image is in this set. I am collecting all those domain points whose image is in this set. So it will be nothing but the inverse image of the set singleton set alpha. So A will be nothing but the inverse image of the singleton set alpha. Now U is a continuous function and singleton set alpha is actually a closed subset of R. It is closed because in a metric space, all finite sets are closed. By default, all finite sets are closed in a metric space. So as R is a metric space and singleton set alpha is a finite set, it will be closed in R. So singleton set alpha is a closed set in the codomain and U is continuous. So its inverse image has to be closed in omega. That means U inverse of alpha is closed in omega, or in other words, A is closed in omega. So we proved A is a closed set. Now we shall claim A is also open. So to prove A is open, we have to prove every point of it is a interior point. That means for every point in A, we have to find a neighborhood around it which is contained in A itself. So start with a point Z1 in A. So Z1 belongs to the set A means it will be a point of omega whose image is equal to the maximum value. That is u of z1 is equal to u of z0. Now, as z1 is a point of omega, so what is omega? Omega is a region. So region means what? It is open and connected set. So as it is an open set, so every point of it is an interior point. That means for every point in that set, there is a neighborhood around it, which is entirely contained in omega. So now as omega is open and z1 is a point of omega, there is a neighborhood around z1. That is, what is neighborhood around z1? It is set of all those points which are at a distance less than rho from z1, where rho is any point. Sorry, rho is any positive real, which is a radius. So now there is a neighborhood around z1 which is entirely contained in omega. So the situation is like this. So this is the region omega and z1 is any point in omega. So as z1 is open, so there is a neighborhood around z1 which is entirely contained in omega. Now choose any, so the radius of this neighborhood is rho. Now choose any positive r less than rho, smaller than rho, and construct a circle with center z1, radius r. As r is less than rho, the circle with center z1, radius r will be entirely contained in the neighborhood of z1. Now we shall apply the mean value theorem. So u is harmonic on the region omega, so u will be harmonic on the neighborhood centered at z1, and we have C to be any circle centered at z1 with radius r. So hence by the mean value theorem we have u of z1 equals 1 by 2 pi integral u of z1 plus r into e power I theta, where theta runs from 0 to 2 pi. So this is just I have borrowed from the mean value theorem, where z1 is the center of the neighborhood. So in mean value theorem we have proved 0, that is origin as the center. Then later on we have generalized it to any other point z0 has the center. So just in place of z0 we have z1. Z1 is any point which is the center of the neighborhood. So by mean value theorem we have the equation 1. Now u of z1, as z1 is a fixed point, so u of z1 is a fixed value. It is a constant. As it is a constant value, so using that property, so the right hand side. So if I simplify the right hand side integral, u of z1 is constant, take it outside. Integral of d theta is theta. After applying the limits, we'll get 2 pi. So 1 by 2 pi gets cancelled. We are left with u of z1 as in the left hand side. So u of z1 is equal to the right hand side. So this is equation 2. Now take the difference 2 minus 1. So as the left hand sides are equal, the difference will be 0 equals 1 by 2 pi integral 0 to 2 pi u of z1 minus u of z1 plus r into e power I theta. As the product of two values is equal to 0, any one of has to be 0, but 1 by 2 pi is non-zero, the integral has to be 0. So now what you observe, so integral of this function is 0 from 0 to 2 pi. Now see what is that function. So note that, so we have seen that we have assumed that u attains maximum. That is u of z0 will be greater than or equal to all rest of the u values. So u of z0 is nothing but u of z1 now, as z1 is a point of A. So u of z1 will be greater than or equal to u of z1 plus r into e power I theta. As these are all points, so what is this omega? So inside omega we have a neighborhood around z1 with radius rho, and inside that we have a circle. So as theta varies from 0 to 2 pi, actually you will get these points. So z1 plus r into e power I theta are actually nothing but the points on this circle. So u has the maximum on this whole region. So what is that maximum? It is u of z0. So u of z0 is greater than or equal to u of z for all z in this region. In particular, on this circle also, u of z0 is the maximum. So u of z0 will be greater than or equal to for all points on this circle. So that is u of z1 plus r into e power I theta, as theta varies from 0 to 2 pi. So now u of z1 minus u of z1 plus r into e power I theta is greater than or equal to 0. That means the integrand is non-negative. So now what I recalled before the theorem. So if the integrand is non-negative and the integral is 0, then the integrand has to reduce to 0. So therefore, u of z1 minus u of z1 plus r into e power I theta is should reduce to 0 for all theta from 0 to 2 pi. That means on this circle, so this is the region omega. So this is the region omega. In the region omega, we have neighborhood around z1 and center. So on this circle, so u of z1 is equal to u of z1 plus r into e power I theta. So now as theta varies from 0 to 2 pi, z1 plus r into e power I theta actually gives you the points on this circle. So for all points on this circle, u of z1 plus r into e power I theta actually equals to u of z1, where this is an arbitrary circle, right? So in this neighborhood of z1, so by varying r, you can consider number of circles, right? So if I say this is the neighborhood of z1 with radius rho inside the region omega, so this was one circle with radius r. Now vary r from in between 0 and rho. So for varying r, you can consider numerous circles, and on that all circles, on all those circles, what you will get, u of z1 will be equal to u of z1 plus r into e power I theta, where r is arbitrary. So as this is true for an arbitrary circle in that neighborhood, so that will be true for all the circles. So by considering numerous circles in that neighborhood, you can cover all the points of that neighborhood. That means u of z will be u of z1 for all points in that neighborhood. But u of z1 is equal to u of z0. So all these u of z will be in turn equal to u of z0 for all points in that neighborhood. So hence, for all points in that neighborhood, u of z0 is equal to u of z. That means by our characterization of A, so all the points in that neighborhood should be contained in A. So what that means, for any given point z1 of A, we found a neighborhood around that point which is entirely contained in A. So this shows that z1 is an interior point of A. Now since the point which we considered in A was arbitrary, all points of A are interior point, hence A will be open. So thus, now we have to note that A is a subset of connected set omega, which is both open and closed. We proved A is both open and closed. So by the equivalent condition for a connected set, as omega is connected, the only subsets of omega which are both open and closed are empty set and omega. So as A is one of that, A is either empty or the whole set. But initially we have noted that A is non-empty, so A should reduce to, or A will be the whole set omega. So what that means, so A is equal to the omega means all the points of omega are the points of A. That means for all the points of omega, u of z will be equal to u of z0. So what that means, for all points z in omega, u of z is a fixed value u of z0. That means u is a constant function on omega. That is, u reduces to a constant function on omega, which is a contradiction to the hypothesis, because in hypothesis they have given u is a non-constant harmonic function, but assuming u attains maximum, we got a contradiction to the fact that it is a non-constant function. We got it to be constant function. So this contradiction proves that u cannot have maximum. If it attains maximum, then it will be a contradiction. Similarly, we can prove it cannot attain minimum. So we shall see that case now. Suppose you have minimum on omega. So you have minimum on omega means, so u has some minimum value among all the images, or u has the minimum for the range set. That is, there is a point in omega such that u of z0 is the minimum for all u of z values. So now multiply minus on both sides. Minus u of z0 will be greater than or equal to minus u of z. By multiplying minus on both sides, the inequality gets reversed. So minus u of z naught can be categorized as minus u of z naught, which is a scalar multiple of u. So minus u of z naught is greater than or equal to minus u of z for all z belong to omega. Now observe that as u is harmonic, scalar multiple of it will also be harmonic. That is minus u is harmonic. And observe that minus u of z naught is greater than or equal to all rest of the function values. So what it means, minus u attains the maximum value at z naught. So minus u is a harmonic function in omega which attains maximum on the region omega. So by the above part, so in the above part what we saw, if a harmonic function attains maximum, then it has to reduce to a constant. So as here minus u attains maximum, it has to reduce to a constant. That means minus u of z has to be equal to k for all points, or multiplying minus u of z will be minus k for all z. So what it means, u once again reduces to a constant. So assuming u attains minimum, once again we have got a contradiction that u is a constant function. So this contradiction once again proves that u cannot have minimum. So therefore a non-constant harmonic function can never have maximum or minimum. So this completes the first part. Now we'll come to the second part. So in the second part, we have to assume u is a real valued continuous function on closed and bounded set E, and u is harmonic in the interior of E. Now since first of all u is continuous on closed and bounded set, u attains maximum and minimum. So as we have already recalled that any real valued continuous function on a closed and bounded set, closed and bounded subset E of C is compact. So continuous function on a compact set attains maximum and minimum. So u attains maximum and minimum. So u attains maximum and minimum means what? So there is a maximum value among all the images, and there is also a minimum value among all the images. So among the images means there is a domain point z naught belonging to E such that u of z naught is the maximum of all u of z. So u of z is greater than or equal to u of z naught is greater than or equal to u of z for all z varying over omega, right? So it shows that u has the maximum at z naught, or u of z naught is the maximum value of u. Now what actually we have to prove? We have to prove u attains maximum on boundary of E. That means that we have to prove u has the maximum value for some boundary point. Now according to this theory, so u attains maximum. So u attains at some point z naught of E. So if at all z naught is itself the boundary point of E, then what it means? So u attains maximum on boundary of E. As u attains maximum at some boundary point, then u will attain maximum on boundary of E. So then we are through. So what we have to prove, it is already proved by default. If at all the point z naught at which u has the maximum is a boundary point. So now suppose it is not a boundary point. So the point at which u has the maximum value is not a boundary point. So z naught does not belongs to boundary of E means, so z naught does not belongs to boundary of E. So what is boundary of E? E closure intersection E complement closure. So z naught does not belongs to the intersection means it will not be in any one of the sets. It cannot be, it need not be in both the sets, or it need not be in any one of the sets. So z naught does not belongs to E closure, or z naught does not belongs to E complement closure. So what it means? So z naught does not belongs to E closure means there is a neighborhood U such that U intersection E is empty, because z naught belongs to E closure if and only if every neighborhood of z naught should intersect E. So it does not belongs to E closure means there is a neighborhood which do not intersect E, or z naught does not belongs to E closure complement implies that there exists a neighborhood, say U, such that U intersection E complement is empty. So that means Z0 is not a boundary point of E implies that there is a neighborhood. Either it does not intersect E or it does not intersect E complement. So any one of these two should hold, which is true here. Either U intersection E is empty or U intersection E complement is empty. So what is U? U is actually a neighborhood of Z0 I have taken. So U contains Z0 and E also contains Z0. So it cannot be empty. So Z0 belongs to U and E both. So it will be in the intersection. So intersection cannot be empty. So this is not possible. So only this is possible. That is U intersection E complement will be empty. So U intersection E complement is empty means what? So there is no common points between U and E complement, or I can say no point of U is a point of E complement. So no point of U is a point of E complement means no, every point of U will be point of E. So all the points of U will be in E itself, so that they will not be in E complement. So all the points of U will be in E. So what it means? So if I consider the interior of E now, what is the interior of E? It is the largest open set contained in E. And now U is what? U is a neighborhood. So being an open, so it is an open set contained in E. So U will be contained in interior of E. So as interior of E is the largest open set contained in E, and U is any open set contained in E, U will be contained in interior of E. And Z0 is a point of U, so that it will be a point of E0. Now, E0 being a subset of R2 can be represented as disjoint union of components. Components means maximal connected subsets of E0. So that means any subset of R2 can be represented as disjoint union of some maximal connected subsets of E0. So now I can do the same for E0 also. So I can represent E0 as some union of components, union of its components. That means I can express E0 as union of some maximal connected subsets. Now Z0 belongs to E0. So Z0 belongs to this union. So Z0 belongs to the union of components means Z0 will be in any one of the component. So let omega be a component of E0 containing Z0. So among those components, choose the component omega of E0 which contains Z0. So omega being a component of E0. E0 is what? It is an interior of E. So it is open, and components of open sets are once again open. So E0 can be represented as disjoint union of components, and as E0 is open, all its components are open. So omega is a component of E0, so it will be open. So omega being a component, it is a connected set, and it is also open as E0 is open. So it is both open and connected. So it is a region. So omega is a region containing the point Z0. Now given U is harmonic on in E0, hence it will be harmonic in omega as omega is contained in E0. So now also you have to note that Z0 is a point of omega at which U attains the maximum. So what that means, U attains maximum on omega, because so for all points in omega, U of Z0 is the maximum which is in omega itself. So U attains maximum on omega, where omega is a region. Now we shall use the part 1, where in the part 1 says that part 1 we have proved that any harmonic function which attains maximum on some region omega should reduce to a constant. Now U attains maximum on omega, so it has to reduce to a constant on omega. And in fact, we have proved that that constant will be nothing but the maximum value. So U of Z will be equal to U of Z0 for all Z varying over omega. So by this fact, we also can see that U of Z will be equal to U of Z0 for all points in omega closure, because for any point Z in omega closure, so by sequence lemma, there exists a sequence Zn of points of omega such that Zn converges to Z. As Zn approaches to Z, U of Zn approaches to U of Z, as U is a continuous function. Now consider this sequence. So sequence of numbers U of Zn is approaching to U of Z. But what are all U of Zn? They are all U of Z0, because all points Zn are in omega. So for all points in omega, u of z is equal to u of z naught. As all zns are in omega, u of zn will be equal to u of z naught. So what it means, for all n, this will be a sequence of constants, that is u of z naught. And you know that any constant sequence should converge to that particular point. So as all u of zns are u of z naught, so this will be a sequence of constants converging to the constant. That means this limit value has to be equal to u of z, which is the constant. So u of z will be u of z naught for any point z in omega closure. So that means u of z will be equal to u of z naught for all points in the closure. But this closure contains boundary points. So in particular, for all boundary points, u of z is equal to u of z naught. So what that means, u of z naught is actually the maximum value of u, and at every point of boundary of omega, u has the maximum value, right? U has the maximum value at every point of boundary of omega. Now we shall claim that boundary of omega is non-empty and boundary of omega is contained in boundary of E. Now suppose that, assume we have proved the claim. Later we shall handle with that claim. So now for time being, assume the claim. So if we have proved this claim, so boundary of omega is empty and boundary of omega is contained in boundary of E. So as boundary of omega is non-empty, so there exists a point in boundary of omega, say Z1, and at all the points of boundary of omega, u has the maximum value. So u of Z1 will be equal to u of Z0. As boundary of omega is contained in boundary of E, so that point Z1 will be contained in boundary of E. And at that point, u has the maximum value. So what that means, so Z1 is a boundary point at which u has the maximum value. So u of Z1 is a value at the boundary point Z1, which is equal to the maximum value. So what that means, I can say u of Z1 will be the maximum. So that is u of Z1 will be greater than or equal to u of Z. So which means u attains maximum on E at the boundary point Z1, or in other words, I can say u attains maximum on the boundary of E. Similarly, we can prove u attains minimum. So as we argued for the maximum, with similar arguments and with some changes, we can argue for the minimum case also. So if u is a real valued continuous function on a closed and bounded set E, and if it is harmonic in the interior, then it will attain maximum and minimum on the boundary of E. So which actually completes the second part. So, but we are left with the claim. So just to prove the claim, so we have to prove two things. So one is we have to prove boundary of omega is non-empty, and the other is we have to prove boundary of omega is contained in boundary of E. So first of all, to prove boundary of omega is non-empty, assume the contradiction. Suppose boundary of omega is empty. So what is boundary of omega? It is omega closure intersection omega complement closure. So which is empty. That shows these two are disjoint sets. Disjoint closed sets, because closure of a set is always closed. Now consider C. So C can be written as omega union omega complement. So if omega is any subset of C, C can be written as omega union omega complement. A set union its complement will give you the whole domain. So now take closure on both sides. C closure will be equal to closure of omega union omega complement. But as C is closed, its closure is itself C. On the other hand, closure of the union is union of the closures. So we get C to be union of omega closure union omega complement closure, where these two are disjoint sets. So that means we expressed C as the disjoint union of two closed sets, and which is impossible as C is connected. As C is connected, it cannot be expressed as disjoint union of closed sets or disjoint union of open sets. But we are successful in expressing C as the disjoint union of two closed sets. So which is a contradiction to the fact that C is connected. So any connected set cannot be represented as disjoint union of two closed sets or two open sets. But C being a connected set, we expressed it as disjoint union of two closed sets. So which is a contradiction. So since C is connected, so any one of these two has to be empty. So if both are non-empty, then C being connected, it will be a contradiction. So C cannot be expressed as disjoint union of two non-empty closed sets or non-empty open sets. So any one of these two has to be empty. If at all both are non-empty, then it will be a contradiction. So either omega closure has to be empty or omega complement closure has to be empty. So, but Z naught is a point of omega, so that it will be a point of omega closure. So this cannot be true. That is, it cannot be empty. So this has to be empty. That is, omega complement closure has to be empty, so that omega complement will be empty. So if I come to this representation, C is the union of omega and omega complement, where omega complement is empty. So C will be just omega, which is contained in E, where E is a bounded set. So C is contained in a bounded set implies C will be also bounded, but it is a contradiction as C is unbounded. We know that C cannot be bounded. So there are infinitely many bigger numbers in C, so that we cannot bound C, but we are getting C to be bounded, which is a contradiction. And this contradiction proves that boundary of omega has to be non-empty. And to prove the another claim, that is boundary of omega is contained in boundary of E, once again consider the contradiction. So boundary of omega is not contained in boundary of E. So what it means, there is a point in this set which is not a point of this set, right? So then there exists a point Z1 in boundary of omega, but not in boundary of E. So it does not belongs to boundary of E means what? Once again, there is a neighborhood U of Z1 which does not intersect E or E complement. It will not intersect any one of E and E complement. So either this set is empty or this set is empty. But as omega is contained in E, omega is actually a component of E naught and E naught is contained in E. So omega is contained in E, U intersection omega is contained in U intersection E. As Z1 is a boundary point of omega, so its neighborhood should intersect omega, right? So its neighborhood should intersect omega. So this intersection has to be empty, non-empty, so that this intersection has to be non-empty. So as this is non-empty, so this has to be empty. So U intersection E complement is empty, so that U will be contained in E on whole. So now U is a subset of E. So U is being a neighborhood, it is a connected subset of E, and omega is also a connected subset of E. So the union will be a connected subset of E as they are not disjoint. So there is a result, union of two connected sets is again connected provided they are not disjoint. So U intersection omega is non-empty, that is they are not disjoint, and U is connected, omega is connected. So union will also be connected. But this union contains omega. So omega is a maximal connected subset of E, and this is a connected subset of E. So omega being a maximal connected subset of E, it cannot be contained in any other connected subset of E. So omega is contained in this connected set means this connected set has to be none other than omega. So as omega is a maximal connected set, it cannot be contained in any other connected sets. So this inclusion actually shows that the connected set U union omega has to be none other than the omega. So U union omega is once again omega means U will be actually a subset of omega. So U will be entirely contained in omega. That shows that U and omega complement will have no common points. The intersection will be empty. But as Z1 is a boundary point of omega, so Z1 should belongs to omega closure intersection omega complement closure. That means every neighborhood of Z1 should intersect omega complement also. But U is a neighborhood of Z1 which do not intersects omega complement, which will be a contradiction. And this contradiction proves that boundary of omega has to be contained in boundary of E. And this completes the whole maximum and the minimum principle for harmonic function. So which actually has two parts, first part and the second part.